Good evening, everybody.
Kavod, how are you?
Thank you. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, so we did Aleph and yeah, looks like we're done with Aleph. Going to bed, yeah. Okay, good. Sorry about that. So it says bet, Mivarech hamotzi lechem min haaretz. You do bless hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Ve'af al gav de motzi adif tefeh. And even though to say motzi is better, that's interesting, right? Yeah, so there's a machloket in the Gemara about this, What's better, motzi or hamotzi? So I just want to check into the tour before we do the Beit Yosef. Let's see what he says there. Right. So it says the two like this. Right. So it says that yes, we bless hamotzi, even though motzi is better. Why? Because it's a past tense. He says everybody agrees. But tzarich levarech l'shavar, and you do have to bless in the past tense. Hamotzi plige. When it comes to hamotzi, there is an argument there in the Talmud whether this is past tense or not. But it says anyway. Nevertheless, the Talmud paskins hamotzi v'chaben birkato. So just to recap, right? What is he saying there? He's saying like this, right? That machloket, as we said, in Talmud, what's better, motzi or hamotzi. So apparently, technically speaking, motzi is better since it connotes past tense. And regarding hamotzi, there's a machloket whether it's past tense or not. But nevertheless, the Gemara paskins say hamotzi. Anyway, so continues. Yeah, we'll see the Beit Yosef. Let's see. So regarding that, says Beit Yosef, Beper Katzat Mevrachin. Where is this in Lamed Chet Amud Aleph, right in Brachot? Tan Rabbanan. The rabbis taught, Ma Omer Hamotzi Lechem Min Haaretz. Right? What does he say? So first opinion says Hamotzi. Rabbi Nechemia Omer Motzi. He says no. Say Motzi Lechem Min Haaretz. Amar Rabba b'motzi kule alma lo plige de'afik mashma. So, right, Rabbi says, yeah, well, when it comes to motzi, everybody agrees that it's past tense. So, technically, as we said, right, better. Dichtiv b'midbar el motziah mimitzrayim. Like it says in Bamidbar, Hashem took them out of Mitzrayim. Past tense. Ki plige behamotzi. So they do argue with hamotzi. Abanan sabre hamotzi dapik mashma. The rabbis hold that it's past tense. Tichtiv, they bring a verse, hamotzi lecha mayim, that he brings out for you water, mitzru chalamish, from the rock. Rabbi Nechemia sabar, this rabbi holds, hamotzi the mapik mashma. So he says, no, hamotzi is like present tense. Shemot, as it says in the verse, Shemot, Hamotzi etchem mitachat tivlot Mitzrayim. He's taking out of the burdens of Egypt. But Rabbanan, Achi Kamar. So just to recap that, right? Regarding Hamotzi, there's a machloket here. One opinion holds that this is past tense, and the other one holds that it's future tense. Let me just make sure I got this right. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't say it right. That one says it's past tense, one says it's present tense. Okay, whatever. Anyway, we'll figure it out. So he says, right, that mashma shenemar hamotzi etchem mitachat tivlot Mitzrayim, v'Rabbanan hachi kamar lo kutcha brichu d'Israel. So the rabbis say, well, this is what Hashem told to Israel, v'chule, etc., etc. He doesn't bring the whole text over here. Rashi explains the apik mashma ha vadai bracha haguna shabar bainan, right? So he says that's the proper thing to do, right? To say in the past tense. Why is that? Because you already took this bread out of the ground, right? That's why you're eating it. So it really should be past tense. In other words, it doesn't make sense to say, well, yeah, like he's taking it out now. What do you mean taking it out now? Now you're eating it now. How does that work out? שהוא בא ליהנות ממנו בהסיקנה, והלכת מוציא לחם מן הארץ. But bottom line, they paskin hamotzi, וכתבו התוספות, אף אגב במוציא כולי עלמא לא פליגי, right? So he says, and now Tosfot tries to explain, right? If that's the case, then why they paskin, why didn't they paskin the motzi, which is better, apparently? The apik mashma b'Yerushalmi, because that's, past. מפרש תמה כדי שלא לערב ראשי האותיות. So he says, right, the reasoning of this is brought down in Yerushalmi. Why we paskin the way we do, or we don't paskin the way we don't, whatever. Right? So he says over there in Yerushalmi, in order that we shouldn't mix up the beginning of the letters. For instance, ha'olam motzi, afagav de belechem man ika eruv. So he says, for instance, the world is taking out, even though with bread, there is eruv. Shani hatam is different over there. The kara ketib, because there's a verse there in Tehillim, Kuf Daled, leotzi lechem min haaretz, they take out bread for you from the ground. V'halken yesh livtzoa b'shte yadav. So he says, therefore, you should break the bread with two hands. Be'eser belt with 10 fingers. Can I get eser tevot shebemikra, corresponding to the 10 words in that verse? Ze ad kan leshonam. Okay, 1 second. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what he's saying over in the Yerushalmi, but we'll try to figure it out. Let's see. So he says, I'll go on with this a little bit. V'yesh b'davar rabbeinu ta'ut sofer. So he says, there is here in the words of the Tur, mistake here, some kind of printer's error. Shekatuv b'sfarim dekuli alma, because it's written in the books that everybody modu delahacha delaba mashma, that everybody agrees that this is like future tense. Shetzarich levarech lehaba, so you have to bless in future tense. V'hana b'inach ro'ah shebemimah amru dekuli alma lo plige de'apik mashma. But in the Talmud they said everybody agrees that this is the past. Tichtiv al el mutziam mitzrayim. God took them out of Egypt. V'zeu vadai l'shabar. That's for short past tense. This verse. U'kamoshe piresh Rashi, like Rashi explains, hilkach tzarich leagia. So he says, therefore, you have to here change the language here a little bit. L'shabar, you have to put their past tense b'makom le'abar instead of future tense. V'kach seder alashon dekuli alma modu. This is he says the order of the language that everybody agrees that is shabar mashma, that it's talking about past tense here, but tzarich levarech l'shavar, you have to bless past tense. V'chen matzati b'sefer, so that's the way I found the book Meduyak, the correct version of this book, right? The Tur, v'chen he girsat ha'Itur. That's the way it's written in Itur also, the same language. V'efshar shegirsat Rabbeinu b'gemara he. So he says, possible that the text of Rabbeinu in the Gemara, he zot b'mutzi. It's like different, than what we have. Right. So for him, it says there that it's present tense instead of past tense. Like it says in that verse, God took them out of Mitzrayim. They only argue about hamotzi. Rabbanan sabre hamotzi. So rabbis hold the mapik mashma that it's present tense. Like it says that he took you out of the burdens of Egypt. But Rabbi Nehemiah Savar Hamotzi Diapik Mashma, and this rabbi holds that Hamotzi, it's like past tense. Tichtiv Hamotzi Lecha Maim, like took you out the water from you. So this one means to say, Lo Kadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael. Hashem told Israel like that. Perush B'Motzi. So according to this, right, it's like this, that the word motzi, everybody agrees that it's present tense. And if he wants, it's going to be future, as it says, right? God that takes them out of Mitzrayim. It means to say like this: when he wanted to take them out of Egypt, right? It's the future tense. They already argue with hamotzi. Rabbanan sabre the mapik mashma. Some say it's present tense. The rabbis, like this Egypt, taking you out of the burdens of Egypt. And that's future. Rabbi Nehemiah Sabar the apik mashma. Some say it's talking about past. Tichtiv hamotzi lecha mayim. Takes out of water for you. He already took it out, and this is the text of the Sefer HaMarachet Lahud Shekatab B'Shar HaBrachot Derech Vav V'zeh Lashono V'Perek Ketzad Mevarchin Aminan Al Pat Ma'u Mevarech HaMotzi Rabbi Nehemiah Omer Motzi Amar Rabbi B'Motzi Kulei Alma Lo Plige Demapik Mashma כי פליגה בהמוציא ורבנן סברי המוציא נמי דמפיק משמע ולאחר כרבנן דאמרי המוציא עד כאן. וכן נראה גרסת התוספות שכתבו ז"ל וזה לשונם הלכת המוציא אף על פי שמוציא כולי עלמא לא פליגה דמפיק משמע בירושלמי מפרש טעמה עד כאן. הרי שאמרו דלכולי עלמא מוציא דמפיק משמע פירוש דמפיק ידוע שהוא להבא. Okay, so right here, there's giving you like several different versions over here of this whole Gemara, how to understand this Gemara, right? So there's different texts, different versions. But bottom line, right, whether you take any of these versions, there's a few things we have to keep in mind, right? Number one is that regarding Hamotzi, there is a machloket about that, whether it implies past tense or future tense. But regarding Motzi, everybody agrees that this is a better approach because it's past tense. But nevertheless, in the Talmud, they paskin Hamotzi. And then he brings one more little piece over here. מה שכתב רבנו, ויתן רוח בין לחם ובין מן, וירושלמי שכתבתי בסמוך, יש ללמוד כן ופשוט הוא. Okay, Okay, so before we go to Shulchan Aruch, I'm going to go back to the tour, and there's like a few more things there, according to what I see here. So I just want to finish it off there. Make sure we read everything. So I'll read the tour again, right from the top, because this way it'll give us a chance to review a little bit this whole thing, right? So Bivarech Hamotzi, right? It says the tour. You should bless Hamotzi, Lechem Min Haaretz. This is the proper text according to Halacha. Even though Motzi is better, technically speaking, the Kuli Alma Modud L'Shavar Mashma, because everybody agrees that it's past tense. This word, Motzi. Mashma v'tzarich levarech l'shavar, and you have to bless past tense. V'hamotzi plige, right? But when it comes to hamotzi, there's machloket afilu, right? Pasik Talmuda hamotzi. Nevertheless, right? Talmud paskins like hamotzi. V'chaven b'berkato l'ma shemotzi b'piv. Right. So then he says another important thing, right? This is what I wanted to see, that you should, when you bless hamotzi, right, you should have in mind the meaning of the words, have concentration on that. So, don't just like space out, and like just, verbalize the words. Try to be cognizant of what you're saying. That's what he's saying. Just like any other blessing, by the way, every blessing is like that. You should try to be cognizant of what you're saying, and don't just like blurt it out, like some kind of, like spacing out. Okay, so and then he says, in addition, the tour, וייתן רווח בין לחם ובין מין שלא יבליע המם. So he says, make sure, when you're saying this blessing, you make like a stop over here. Where's the stop? Like this, right? Lechem min haaretz, right? Make sure you stop there. Why? Because the lechem ends with the mem, and min starts with also mem. So if you like make them too close, what happens is it sounds like it's like one word. But the truth is it's two words over there, right? So it shouldn't sound like this, right? Lechem min haaretz, so like one word. That's not what it should be. It should lechem min haaretz, right? Stop there and make that break, so it could break. You break it up into two words and not make it sound like it's one word. That's what he's saying over here. Okay. Another thing he says is, "V'iten shtei adav al apat sheyesh behem yud etzpaot." Right. Also, he says, put two hands on the bread, 10 fingers. Can you get 10 mitzvot tatuliyot b'pat, corresponding to 10 mitzvot that are are associated with bread? So it goes through them. But before we get to that, I'll go back to Bet Yosef here. Let me see. Let's see Shulchan Aruch to see how he explains all this, because there's still a couple of odds and ends, which I didn't understand. So maybe the Shulchan Aruch will tie everything up, and right, to explain better. So let's see what he says there. Yeah, so it says in Shulchan Aruch, Yivarech hamotzi lechem min haaretz, right? As we said, we pass like that. Hamotzi. Ve'im rabim mesubim yichavnu lebam lishmoa beracha v'yanu amen. Right. So he says, if there's several people there, dining together as a group, they should try to hear the blessing, right, and answer Amen. Make sure that they're cognizant of what's going on. And also, he says the one who blesses the blessing should also have in mind the Amen that they're saying. Right? Again, as we said, right, put the space between the word lechem and min. So I'm going to look at the Mishnah Berurah here, right? Maybe he explains more about this because there's still a couple of things which need to be explained here regarding this halacha. So hopefully he gets into it here, digs into it. Let's see what he's got. So first of all, Mishnah Berurah says something important, which is that even though we paskin that we say hamotzi, right? But he says if he said by mistake motzi, he definitely fulfills obligation because, as we said, right, it's fine to say like that. There's no problem. It's just not the halacha, but it's acceptable. That's one thing. So let's move on to Mishnah Berurah. Let's see what else he's got here. So Mishnah Berurah says also something important here, which is that he says that when you answer Amen, right, to this blessing or any other blessing as well, what you're really saying, right, about that blessing is that it's true, that matter is true. So you're affirming, right, this matter that is being said in the blessing. And so therefore he says, since you're affirming it, that means that it's like you blessed it yourself. That's the way we look at it. But he says, right? But he says, nevertheless, b'diavad, right? If you didn't do that, what does that mean you didn't do that? You didn't say amen. It doesn't hold back the blessing here. So what does that mean? If a person did not say amen, right? But he had in mind to fulfill his obligation with that blessing, he still does anyway, right? Regardless of the fact that he didn't say amen. So amen is like a bonus, but it's not really something which is absolutely crucial to the whole idea here. Yeah, that's a good point. But what it doesn't explain is what I wanted to see, which is that this reasoning that was brought in the Beit Yosef, according to the Yerushalmi, what does this reasoning mean? I didn't understand the language there. So the truth is, Beit Yosef himself does not explain it. But nevertheless, right, there are some commentaries on the Yerushalmi that do explain these things. So what I'm going to do is, if I get a chance, after the class or whatever, tomorrow, whatever. Tonight I'm too tired to do this, but tomorrow, if I get a chance, I will look up and try to see if anybody explains this Yerushalmi. Because I'm very curious to see what the reason is why they poskin to say hamotzi, even though motzi is better. That's very fascinating. Okay. All right. Anyway, at least we got something out of it. So, just to recap, right, this whole thing, not the whole thing, but just that point, right, that as we said, we paskin to say hamotzi, but in the Talmud, there's a machloket whether this is past tense, which is the proper mode for this blessing, or right, the other opinion says that hamotzi is present tense. You know, nobody is saying that it's future tense. Right? That's not plausible. Okay. Anyway, so there is here some other stuff here, some commentary. Um, so you see, I accidentally here got into this Taz, right? And this Taz seems to explain that whole thing. So I'm just taking a look at this, what he says here, the Taz. Mhm. Okay, I'm not going to hold you up too much with this. I'll do it myself. This will be my homework. So I'll let you know. I'll try to do the homework and see what I can come up with. It's going to take me a little while, maybe. So I'm not going to take your time. Okay, otherwise you'll get bored. So we'll go to the next one, I guess. Try to do at least one more. Okay, so this was bet. Let's see where it's Gimel. Ah, found it. Okay, so it says here, Kataba Rokeach. It says the Rokach. right? En levarech hamotzi kodem shitfos alechem. Right. So it says, don't bless hamotzi until you hold the bread. So like do everything in the proper sequence. Right? First grab it and then say hamotzi, right? Because you should be holding it in your hand when you're blessing. Like it says regarding menachot, the meal offerings. Gabet tefillin also, right? Mishat nachtan also, the tefillin as well. So there is a general rule like this, that when you're blessing on something, you should be holding that thing. So here too, same thing, right? So he brings, some examples, like tefillin, for instance, right? When you bless on the tefillin, you like kind of like hold it, you grab it. So same thing with the bread. Okay, so let's see the Shulchan Aruch on that. Very simple. Right? As we said, don't bless before you grab the bread. Very simple. Now we're going to the next concept that we said, which is that take that bread into your two hands with 10 fingers. Why is that? Because that corresponds to the 10 mitzvot of the bread. So let's go into the tour, right? Before we come, we'll come back to this Shulchan Aruch, right? First, we got to read the tour. So says the tour, what are the 10 mitzvot that are associated with bread? Here we go. So, right, we have lo tacharosh, b'shor v'chamor, right? Don't plow your field using a ox and a donkey together. Kilaim, right, which is like a mixture. Number one. Number two, leket v'shicha, or pe'ah, right? Then we have leket, right, and shicha. What are these things? These are the parts of the crops you have to leave un, all right, uncut for the poor when you do farming in the land. So this applies to Eretz Israel. These things. Pe'ah, bikurim, right? Then you have pe'ah, which is also, like a piece of the crops that you leave for the poor. So we have leket, shicha, pe'ah, all these three things. And then bikurim, right? What is the bikurim? The first fruits. Truma, right? Then you have the right, which is the part of the tithe that goes to the Kohanim. Then we have Maser, right? That's the part that goes to the Leviim. Maser Rishon, the first one. Maser Sheni, the second one, right? Also, second Maser. There's two Masers, two tithes. And then we have Chala, right? Which is the favorite one for the women. Right? All the ladies like to do that Chala. So that's yeah, that's number 10. Oh, okay, good. So we have 10 mitzvot that are associated with the bread, and therefore grab that bread with 10 fingers, both hands. Interesting. ולכך יש י' תיבות בברכת המוציא. So he says, therefore also, you have 10 words in the Hamotzi blessing. Wow. There you go. So it's all 10. Everything is 10 over here.
So you have Maser Rishon, Sheni, and what else? And then Chala?
We have Truma also, right?
Teruma, yes.
Truma goes to the Kohen. Mm-hmm. Then Maser Rishon, right, goes to the Levi. Mm-hmm. And Maser Sheni goes to the poor.
Thank you.
Okay. So, yeah. These are all the mitzvot that we do in Eretz Israel, right? That's why it's good to be in Eretz Israel. That's one of the reasons, you know? So you can do more mitzvot, the mitzvot that are associated with the land. All that good stuff. Okay. Good. So we got lots of interesting stuff. So let's go to Bet Yosef, see what he says about this. Valid? Yeah, so it says here, regarding all these things, yeah, there's actually a little bit more. We got to do a little bit more tour. A little bit more. So it says here, ולכך יש י' תיבות, we said this, ויש וברכות, right. וי' תיבות בפסוק, right. So there's also 10 words in the verse, right? מצמיח חציר לבהמה, there's a verse like this. וי' תיבות בפסוק עיני כל אליך יסבר, also this one, 10 words there. וי' תיבות בפסוק ארץ חיטה ושעורה, also this verse, right? So all these verses, right? What do we care about all these verses? Because they're all associated again with the, you know, with the crops, you know, bread, you know, wheat and so forth and so on, you know, the grains. ויתן לך ולא יבצע עד שיביאו לפניו. Right. So he says you shouldn't break the bread until they bring to him melach, the bread, the salt. Oh, right. So I guess it's already something else there. Different halacha. Okay, back to Bet Yosef, right? So says Bet Yosef. כן כתוב בכל בו, so it says in כל בו, all this stuff, right? ורוקח, also רוקח, בשם ירושלמי, name ירושלמי, פרק כמה דחלה, in first פרק of חלה, ומדרש ויחולו, אלא, and also מדרש, אלא שבמקום ביקורים כתוב שם לא תחסום, right? But he says the only difference is that over there, instead of bikurim, the first fruits, it says, right, lo tachsom, which means do not muzzle your animal, right? When you're threshing, whatever you're plowing. Yeah, okay, so that's the only difference. Okay, that's good enough. So let's see Shulchan Aruch and we're done. I'm not going to keep you all night. I'm sorry. Okay. Right. So it says, as we said, right, the nice reiteration of all this stuff. Right? Put both of your hands on the bread and you bless. Shesh pem yud et spelled, right? 10 fingers there, right? Let all those 10 fingers participate in the mitzvah, right? The blessing on the bread. As we said, right? That corresponds to the 10 mitzvot, which correspond, which associated with the bread. Then he said that's why you got 10 words, right, in the blessing hamotzi, and also these verses, right? Again, masmiach hatzir lebehema, right? And this verse, which is in Teilim, right? And also, right, eretz chita u'seora. So all these verses, right, having to do with grains and right, all the process of of making these grains and all that stuff, right? Beautiful pasuk. Also, you also have there. Can I get Veitenecha, right? This verse also in Breshit, Kaf Zayin. Okay, so I'll let you, look into these verses if you want to look in there, right, and see all the translations and all that stuff. I'm not going to translate it because there's parts of the verses you have to check them, like in the sources, right? He doesn't just give you a couple of words here. So I'm not going to translate the whole thing. So I have to look them up and see all those things, whatever. But anyway, right? So if you want to enjoy yourself and look at those verses, be my guest. You know where to find it. If you don't, right, we'll help you with that. Okay. So anyway, that's the story there. So I guess we'll stop there. So as I said, I got some homework to do. I'll try to do that homework, and we'll right, continue tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem. So don't forget to vote. It's a mitzvah, right? As the Maran used to say, my Rabbi Alasham, say L'Shem Yichud and vote. Now, L'Shem Yichud, it's like a Kabbalistic thing we say before we do a mitzvah, So he says, he used to say, it's a real mitzvah to vote, So make sure you vote. You know what to vote for. I don't have to tell you, right? I'm not gonna do now, right, politics over here. You guys know what to do. I don't need to tell you nothing. Everybody's smart over here. So that's all you need to know. Okay. Baruch Hashem, we don't have any stupid people in this class. Baruch Hashem. Thank God. Okay, so Laila Tov, we'll see you tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem. After you vote, then we'll start the class, right? Don't wait till the last minute. I mean, I'll tell you one thing, before we go, my Rabbi Ravadia, he himself, on election day, he would go right after Shachrit, and vote right away before he did anything else. Like bright early in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, he would go, He didn't want to leave it for later on. That wasn't the proper thing to do. He went right away, before everything. So you see from there, right, he considered it like a very important thing, very fundamental kind of thing. So therefore, get out there, do your job, and we'll celebrate soon. I'm not going to bring any champagne. No, I'm not that crazy. Okay. So, we'll see you tomorrow. God bless. All the best. Have a good night. Laila Tov.
Thank you so much.
All the best. Bye, bye, bye.